The harsh truth of why your ads are not converting. In this video, I'm going to go through some of the main troubleshooting points that you need to look at when it comes to your Facebook ads and why they are not converting. I'm not going to be going through any media buying stuff because it's not relevant. A lot of people buy traffic in a lot of different ways. There's no one set way to buy traffic, despite what people will have you convinced of. And the things I'm going to cover in this video actually have much more implication on your ad performance than your campaign structure or ABO, CBO, cost cap, and all of that nonsense. The video is going to be split into two sections. The first one is ads issues, and the second one is business issues. But I'm going to save the ads issue stuff for later. A lot more people probably need to hear about the business issues because that is a bigger determining factor in whether or not your ads are going to convert and be profitable for you, and also be a bigger determining factor in why you're not scaling. So even though your ads might be performing at one level, a lower level of spend, for example, but they're not scaling, we're going to go through that as well. The first one is unit economics. So your business just isn't optimized in order to be able to acquire customers profitably. This is why you will have seen recently a massive shift in the trend of a lot of the most successful e-com brands pivoting to different types of funnel structures when it comes to front-end acquisition for their ads. You very rarely see brands running ads to simple product pages on Shopify anymore. We've seen the rise of a lot of different types of funnel. You know, there's a lot of focus on MRR. We use different types of funnel, from a pre-sale page to a product page, from an advertorial to a product page, from a quiz to a tailored bundle, different types of bundling strategies, and all these types of things that you see the most successful brands doing. And they're doing this in order to be able to increase their acquisition cost profitably as they scale their budget, because that is a natural thing that is going to happen. As you scale your budgets, your acquisition cost is going to become more expensive. It's just the way it works. CPMs go up. You can't control a lot of the variables inside your ad account, but one of the things you absolutely can control is your unit economics. You want to be optimizing for at least a 75% gross profit margin to give yourself enough room to be able to acquire customers profitably. I think 75% would put you at between, correct me if I'm wrong, a 1.2 to 1.3 break-even ROAS, which is a very, very achievable target if you're able to optimize your cost of goods, optimize your shipping costs, be a little bit more nimble, be a little bit more agile, maybe ship from China instead of using expensive 3PLs in the US, while sacrificing, yes, a couple of days in shipping, but ultimately you won't harm your customer experience too much. And a lot of the biggest brands that I know personally are shipping from China and are doing it a lot more profitably than their American counterparts. Automatically they have an unfair advantage. The second one is a shitty funnel. So if you don't have a good funnel, if you are driving traffic just to your simple product page, you don't even have in-cart upsells, you don't have checkout upsells, you don't have product page upsells or sales page upsells, and you don't have post-purchase upsells, you are leaving a lot of money on the table, and you are unnecessarily limiting your ceiling in terms of how much you can spend to acquire a customer, which ultimately means if your AOV is $50 and your competitor's AOV is $100, let's say, they can spend your entire AOV in order to acquire a customer and still be profitable, meaning you are out of business. Third one is you just have a product that no one wants. You'll know this. Ideally, you would have obviously validated your product before you pumped thousands of dollars into inventory and risked your entire livelihood basically behind a product without validating its demand. Like, I had a conversation with a guy a few weeks ago who was hell-bent on dumping 15 to 20 grand into inventory for a product that he formulated himself, that he had never even run a single ad for or even generated a single pre-order for. And this is somebody who, a first-time e-com entrepreneur trying to do that, you're going to put yourself under such an unnecessary amount of stress and financial burden, because all of a sudden this thing now has so much pressure on it that it just becomes very difficult for you to succeed, because you start making rash decisions, you start focusing on the wrong things, you start jumping from shiny object to shiny object, and you end up in a very tricky position with a bunch of stock that nobody wants. So those are the business issues. Now let's go into the actual ads issues. So the first issue that I see that significantly hinders a lot of brands' ability to even be profitable on the front end is creator and product fit. I think as this like UGC side hustle thing has become more and more popular, everyone has become a UGC creator. And I see it in even in my agency. Like, when we give clients a list of creators to select from, or at least we used to do that. We no longer do that because we're the ones creating the ad concepts, and so we know better who's going to be starring in the ads and who we want to depict based on the concept, the brief, and the script and everything. But when we used to do it, we used to see a lot of our best creators get ignored because maybe their portfolio wasn't as impressive, or based on some customer persona data that a brand had didn't fit the avatar, when in actuality they did. And I see so many brands go wrong with this because they literally just select anyone. They just go onto a marketplace, hire for a UGC creator. They don't vet them. They don't filter them out based on, is this somebody who our customer's going to resonate with? You know, where do they live? What kind of apartment do they live in? Are they somebody who, you know, like I said, our target audience is going to resonate with? Are they somebody who's going to command authority over them? And so that's why I always say, like, when it comes to selecting creators, there's 3 different things that you need to look at. And I would say a creator needs to be able to tick at least 2 of these 3 boxes for the ads to work, in my opinion, and my experience. So the first one is relatability. Are they somebody who the audience actually sees themselves in? Meaning, if your audience is a suburban soccer mom, for example, and you want to sell her a family product or a home decor product or a garden product, she needs to be able to see herself, her house, her family in the person that is being depicted, or the family or the house that is being depicted in the ad. If they aren't able to do that, then it's very difficult to actually get them to resonate with the messaging and convert. The next one is, are they inspirational or aspirational? Meaning, are they somebody who looks like the desired outcome state of your target customer? If you're selling weight loss, are they somebody who is in shape, has a 6-pack, has a slim waist, you know, has good legs, etc., male, female, whatever? And kind of making that determination when you are making your ads and selecting your creators, making that determination has a massive impact on the performance of your ads. The last one is, are they somebody who is credible? Meaning, are they somebody who your audience are susceptible to take their recommendation and understand and absorb information from? For example, if you're in skincare, your customers will be very highly susceptible to the recommendations of a dermatologist. If you're in the pet niche, your customers will be highly susceptible to the recommendations of a vet, a dog trainer, a dog groomer, the list goes on. This allows you to not only get the right creator and product fit, but also place a different framing on essentially what could be the same script. You could have one script that is framed from 3 different perspectives: the relatable person, the inspirational/aspirational person, and then the credible person. And you'll see that the performance is drastically different. You're probably not ticking one of these 3 boxes based on the creator that you've chosen to be representing your brand. And so you need to go back to the drawing board and really analyze creator/product fit. Do they fit the look and the vibe of what you want from your target customer? Do they live in an environment that is appealing? You know, you don't want someone creating UGC ads in a place that looks like a dump, you know, with a lot of mess in it. You want somebody, maybe depending on your brand, you want somebody who lives in a nice aesthetic apartment, maybe a home with some nice good lighting. And so getting the creator and product fit right is super important and could be one of the things that is hindering your ad performance. Next up, we have the script and the messaging. Point 2 and 3, I'm going to combine them into one. If you've seen my previous video on how to use AI to generate infinite ad ideas, I talk a lot about the script structure. The structure of the script is super important, especially if you're, you know, trying to create net new concepts or new angles and these kind of things. You want to be able to control as many of the variables as possible. So if you're able to control the structure, i.e. you're able to swipe a winning structure from a brand who sells maybe a different product but to the same target customer, you can kind of control that variable. Again, not 100% by any stretch of imagination, but you can place a surer bet based on the ad that you're going to create. The script structure, is it a structure that is proven in that niche? The way the building blocks of the ad, the hook, the problem agitation, the desired outcome, the testimonial, the social proof, the CTA, the risk reversal, etc. The way those are structured in terms of which order they come in, is that a structure that is proven to convert with your target audience? The next one is hooks. I see a lot of brands make this mistake. They just don't test enough hooks up front. And while there is a balance and you want to be efficient with the money that you spend on content, you really do want to explore as many possibilities with hooks, particularly visual hooks and the actual captions or the opening line of the video as possible up front, because you give your script the highest possible chance of success. And again, you're controlling the right variables when you're launching this test. So let's say, for example, you had one new script. Maybe you would do 5 new hooks and 3 different visual hooks for each of those 5 hooks. So you'd end up with 15 variations of that ad that you can then potentially test in one campaign against each other and see what converts. And again, a lot of people underestimate this. They just don't test enough of these upfront. And when you do this, you will see a drastic difference between your previous creative tests that you've run and these new ones in terms of Facebook's budget allocation, in terms of the efficiency and how the ads compete against each other within the specific ad sets. And again, you just want to be able to control as many variables as possible. So then you have the messaging. Well, there's no real way to know whether or not your messaging is converting. As I said, following on from the script, we'll talk about the messaging. So you really want to ask yourself, where did you come up with the messaging for your ads from? I see this time and time again when I work with clients. Like, we have a pretty extensive onboarding process. We, ask them a lot of different questions about their product, about their market. We get them to fill out an entire intake form all about their customer avatar. And a lot of the things that I find in some clients is that they kind of put into their own words the specific benefits of the product or the messaging around the pain point. And they don't really have a set way of talking about it that their customers resonate with, which is why they kind of come to us in the first place, I guess. But when you look at where the messaging came from, it has to come from solid data points. And when I say solid data points, I mean reviews. I mean customer survey data. I mean post-purchase surveys, customer support tickets, forums, Reddit, YouTube, looking at different content on the internet about the pain point that you're advertising to solve will give you a very good understanding of the type of messaging that resonates best with the customer. And if you have a bunch of ads and you've been testing creatives like crazy and it's not converting, there's a very high probability that your messaging is off. And the only way to figure that out is to figure out how your customer actually talks about the product or talks about the problem, and then reframe the conversation around your product to fit that narrative and to fit that wording, those phrases, and the specific language that they use. Because if you talk to them in the language that they understand, they're much more likely to be susceptible to what you have to say. Go back and look at all of these data points. And if you didn't use these data points because you were lazy when creating your ads, which is a lot of people, then go back and do this part. You cannot skip this part of the process and expect your ads to convert, because there's always something that you find that you've missed when you go back. So it's better. And actually, it makes your life a lot easier, because you kind of only have to do this research once, really, around a specific product or problem. And then you're armed with all the information that is going to get your customers to convert. If you spend 80% of your time when you're supposed to be creating ads doing research and only 20% of it writing scripts, all of a sudden you don't sit there with a blank Google Doc. You're in flow state, you're writing copy, you're filling out scripts, because you understand everything that the customer is going through because you've done the necessary research. Next up, we have market sophistication. So speaking to a sophisticated market requires nuance and additional demonstration and understanding of expertise. So for example, examples of sophisticated markets would be weight loss or the make money online space. There's hundreds of different ways that people have advertised and, made a lot of money with courses about how to make money online. You see this time and time again. Like, the people who break through the market sophistication are the people who understand the nuance of all the different solutions that exist on the market. And then they approach it with something that is called a unique mechanism. If you don't know what a unique mechanism is, you really need to study this, because this will allow you to speak about your product in a way that will allow you to cut through the noise and make a logical sales argument to your customer that is going to get them to convert. A unique mechanism is basically a unique spin on how your product solves their problem. So, for example, if everybody on the make money online space is talking about drop shipping, but then I'm over here talking about organic TikTok AdSense, for example, that's a new unique mechanism. And then I'm able to penetrate that market with a completely different type of product, but different type of unique mechanism, which again is going to get them to receive my information with less of the kind of common filtration mechanism and ad blocker that they have for all the previously existing make money online methods. If we're talking about weight loss, Ozempic is a great example of a unique mechanism. You're talking about the entire weight loss industry basically being put on notice because Ozempic came out, because you have weight loss pills, you have supplements, you have powders, you have patches, you have diets, training programs. There's probably 100 different diets, like, not considering anything else. And then all of a sudden you have Ozempic that comes along, you inject yourself, and then the mechanism through how it works is it blocks a specific hormonal pathway, which triggers to your body that you've reached satiety and you have less appetite, and therefore you consume less calories, And if you consume less calories than you expend, you're going to lose weight. And so Ozempic is a great example of a new unique mechanism that has taken the market by storm. Every single telehealth company is advertising Ozempic, and people are making millions doing it because it's a new unique mechanism to a very sophisticated and old market that has heard everything from every vendor all before. Okay, next we have the edit. Post-production is so important. The same script, the same raw footage given to two completely different editors can yield completely different outcomes in terms of the performance in the ad account. I've seen this time and time again where I'll do like experiments like this inside the agency. I'll have the two different editors edit the same product, and then we'll look at all of the metrics, and usually one has drastically outperformed the other. And then when we analyze the edit, we can look at certain things that determine whether or not it was successful. The raw footage is obviously very important. And so if you just don't have enough B-roll, your B-roll is not engaging enough. The way I like to think of it is, particularly for problem-solving products, is every single scene in my ad by itself should be able to stop the scroll. So we kind of put together this like crazy amalgamation of loads of different essentially scroll stoppers together in an ad, but it keeps the engagement high, it keeps the retention high, it keeps the dopamine flowing in your audience. And so it gets them to the end of the ad, or to the point where we need them to in order to actually make a decision to buy and click. If you're editing yourself, or if you're editing your ads yourself, I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, test a bunch of editors through Upwork, online jobs, etc. against each other. Find the one whose ads perform the best and hire them and have them edit your ads. A few key things that you want to look at is the first scene, so the visual hook. Is that doing a good enough job of stopping the scroll? Because if you think of your ad like a funnel, the first scene is your top of funnel. The first scene is what is going to determine the amount of volume that goes through that funnel. If the first scene is weak at catching people's eyeballs, you will never be able to get enough people in that funnel to be able to make the ad profitable. If the first scene is very good at stopping the scroll, but is able to do it contextually, meaning the eyeballs that you're getting are quality eyeballs. They're people who have self-selected themselves to be viewers of that video. So what I mean is, if your hook is relevant to a specific pain point, then all of the people who suffer from that pain point and looking for a solution are going to be able to take notice. So that's super important. The next is scene selection. You want to make sure your scene selection is congruent throughout the entire script. Meaning, if you have loads of different B-roll and loads of different B-roll to fit specific scenes of the script, you have to align it with those specific lines in the script. Otherwise, if you're talking about, let's say you're doing a hair loss ad and you're talking about clumps of hair falling out, but you're not showing the customer a visual representation of that with like some hair in the bottom of the drain or some hair coming off a comb, you're breaking the flow state that a viewer enters when they're watching your ad. And you want to be able to create as little cognitive load on your target audience as possible when they're viewing your ads, because they shouldn't have to think too much. If they have to think too much, they automatically disengage. Your ad should be like the seamless journey of like, by the time they actually realize they're seeing an ad, by the time they actually realize they're being pitched a product, it's too late because they're sold. And all they want to do at that point is click and buy. So scene selection is very important in getting that effect on your customers. So making sure that as you watch each scene, as you're doing the reviews of your edits from your team or yourself, you have to think, does this specific visual align with this specific portion of the script? And if it doesn't, you have to swap it out with something that does. You have to shoot new scenes, scrape some content from the internet, whatever you have to do in order to get the scene selection to be congruent and consistent across the entire video. The next one is pacing. Pacing is super dependent upon the audience themselves, meaning if you're targeting an older customer, you want to be slower paced because the rate at which they consume information is going to be different to your 18 to 25 scrolling TikTok all day audience. With them, you got maybe 2 seconds to get their attention. With the older lot, you might have 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And so you can be a little bit more measured in the way that you construct your messaging and the way you construct your edit to reflect the rate at which your audience is comfortable consuming information, depending on your niche, your product, and your customer avatar. That pretty much sums up everything in terms of the reasons why your ads are not converting. A lot of them are very inconvenient truths, and it's very easy to just look at your ad account and think maybe we need to try another bid type or a campaign structure or whatever else. But these are the things that actually have much higher impact on your business and your ability to acquire customers profitably. And so if you pay attention to these and put in the less sexy work by doing these things, you can set yourself up to success. If you have good unit economics, you can set yourself up for success. If you have contextual messaging and done your research and you have the right people in the feed representing your product to your target audience, you can have a lot more success in terms of acquiring customers profitably. That sums it up. If there's anything you think I haven't covered in terms of reasons why your ads might not be converting, please do drop it in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. There's a link below to my agency, my newsletter, and my course. So if you want, go ahead and look at those. Maybe you need some new creatives for your brand, in which case I highly recommend, in my unbiased opinion, that you should work with us. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video.